Welcome to the Perfectly Flawed podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, for those that don't know you, would you like to give a bit of an overview of who you are?
Sure. So my name's Lachlan Carter. 23, live on the Gold Coast, and I'm a swimmer. I train at the Griffith Uni Swimming Club. And yeah, that's a pretty good overview of me, I guess.
Yeah. How did you get into swimming?
Well, I started learning to swim when I was like 3 months old. My parents put me in and just went through the processes and progressed from like learn to swim to squad training when I was around I'd say maybe like 6 or 7. And then got to about 12 years old and I hated it and I quit. And then I started back up like competitive swimming when I was around probably 17 years old. And since then, because I've loved swimming ever since I was little, growing up watching the Olympics and the Australian team. That was always my goal and what has sort of inspired me to pursue swimming. And yeah, that's what has sort of driven me to be a swimmer, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you said that you sort of stopped around 12 and came back at 17. I feel like that's not that common to come back into swimming at 17 because I feel like, as swimmers, you start quite young and sort of stick around for quite some time. What was it that for you that you said, nah, I'm out, and then to come back at 17? What was that like?
Yeah, so the main reason when I was around 12, 13 years old, I was in like grade 7, grade 8. And I was quite good at swimming in my like age group at school and whatnot. And then I stopped getting that progression and everybody around me was getting faster. So that sort of like didn't make me feel too good about myself. But then the main thing that made me want to quit was when I was like 12, I was like a bit bigger. I was like a bit fat and I thought I was fat. It was just me about to go through puberty, but I hated the way that my body looked like. And, in swimming, it's pretty hard to hide. Like you're just in dick togs and that's all that covers you. So I had a bit of a belly and man boobs and I got picked on a little bit. And it was when I was at that age, I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the way that I looked. I'm like, that's it. I don't want to swim anymore. I hate it. And I was going to play rugby for club because I played rugby for school. And I told mum and dad, like, no, I'm going to play rugby for club, which I never ended up doing. Because they wanted me like, oh, well, you still have to do a sport. So I would do a sport each term. And I would still swim for my school, like come term 1. But I wouldn't do the year-round training for it or anything. And it wasn't until I'd gone through puberty and I'd lost all that, child fat, which isn't even fat. Like we all go through it. But when I was younger, I didn't know that. And then, yeah, when I was 16, 17, that passion of still wanting to swim and achieve all those things was still there. I felt better about myself. And I'm like, it was actually the coach at my school, Brian Glass, who he really wanted me to get back into the pool and train. And if not for him, I wouldn't be swimming today. Like I credit where I am today thanks to him. Because if not for his push and wanting me to swim, because he could see the potential, I wouldn't have got back in the pool. I would have stopped swimming at 12 years old and that would have been that.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And knowing what you know now, what would you sort of say to that 12-year-old self about like swimming and body image? What would you say?
Well, looking back on it, it's like if I thought I was fat, well, stopping swimming is only going to make me bigger. So it was kind of dumb in that way looking back on it. But, I would tell myself that it's normal and that everyone goes through it. I suppose the hardest thing was I sort of got picked on for it. Like I got a little bit bullied for being a bit bigger, which made me very self-conscious. And still to this day, like I sometimes have body image issues. Like I know I'm nowhere near fat or like overweight or anything like that, but sometimes I still struggle a little bit with like body positivity and am quite self-conscious in I want myself to look good because I don't ever want to like go back to that, which it's kind of bad, I guess, but yeah, just through what I went through. But I just tell my younger self, like, it's okay, keep pushing it, and like, don't worry about what other people think. It's natural, like everyone goes through it, and everyone goes through puberty in different stages. It's a very awkward thing. Like, there's some people that won't go through that at all, or they go through it earlier, later. Like, everyone's so different. I just, 12 years old, it's very sort of hard to listen and understand that, I guess, until you've gone through it.
Yeah, for sure. And it is pretty challenging. Like, as you said, like in swimming, you're in bathers, like nothing is left to the imagination. Like everything is pretty much on display. So when those thoughts come up now, what is sort of those thoughts that are coming to your mind, and how do you then process them and move forward?
Yeah, so to now, I just sort of like, it's not that I think that I'm fat, like I don't think that at all, but I will try very, very hard to make sure I don't ever look that way. I want to make sure I look as good as I can be, but like I try that was like maybe a couple of years ago. Now I just want to have my body in the best way it can be, not aesthetically, but the best way it can be to get me from A to B in the pool the fastest. Like, that's all I want my body to be able to do, is for me to be the fastest in the pool. And I don't care what I look like, as long as I'm swimming fast, I'm happy, kind of thing with that. So yeah, I think some of the self-talk, because there's been other aspects, not necessarily to do with like body image for me in regards to mental health, that seeing psychologists and whatnot have given me lots of tools and ways to navigate that and move through those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are, like, obviously you sort of touched on a bit there that there are other things sort of going on. What are those things, if you are comfortable enough in sharing?
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, probably a few years ago, I really fell into quite a dark hole and a dark place. Just some negative self-talk and some things that happened in my life, like from breakups or family issues. And I just got to a point where I would look in the mirror and I would just hate myself like so much. And that was quite hard. But at that point in time, I would talk to my mum and dad, and they helped me through it a bit. But this is probably going back to around 2018 was the first time I really came face to face with this type of thing, like, quite depressed and whatnot. Didn't see a psychologist then because I felt like I managed it pretty well myself, but it wasn't until last year was the first time I went and saw a psychologist for my mental health reasons. So for me, whenever I had like these mental health problems, or I felt depressed and down, the pool was always a really good outlet for me and a way for me to escape and free my mind. Like, swimming was great for that. But then obviously last year COVID hit, we had the big lockdown. I couldn't get to a pool for 3 months, and that's when I struggled quite a lot. And thanks to the support with Taylor, my girlfriend, she really gave me a push to go see someone, because I got to the point again where I honestly hated myself. I just looked at myself and I couldn't tell you why. I just was so down. And I had a few like family issues that I went through last year, like my parents separated and my mum left. And yeah, it was very tough, and all the circumstances around that. It was quite a dark place. And I've been to that point a couple of times where I don't want to be here anymore. And it's a very, very scary place to be, to sort of want to take your own life. And yeah, it's horrible to be in that position. And that's sort of what drove me to go see someone. And they just, being able to talk through all these issues and be open about it. And being open about it was the really key thing, because there's no point spending all this money going to a psychologist and hiding things, because you're not going to get better. You got to put everything out on the table, I feel, and then they can really help you. And so that's what I did. And yeah, it put me in a much better place and gave me the tools to deal with, because, you know, you're never going to be 100% all the time. Everyone has their ups and downs, but it's just how you cope with those downs and those ups as well, to a degree, that is most important, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And firstly, like, I'm so sorry that you were in such a dark place. It's not easy, and obviously it can be quite challenging to talk about. How do you find, I mean, looking at you now, I can see that you're okay. How would you say you are about opening up about this sort of stuff now? Like, how comfortable are you in talking about this?
Oh, I'm very open with talking about it. Like, ask me whatever you want. Like, I'll be as honest as I can, because, you know, I've been quite open about these things with other people, because I know everybody has their mental issues, and if what I've been through can in some way help someone else, like, that is important to me. So, you know, I don't want other people to have to go through these things, or potentially get to that point, feel like they have no one to turn to, and actually go through with taking their own life. Like, yeah. So yeah, everything will be out on the table for me. I'm very open with it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess from my point of view, and I don't know if you share the same sort of belief as me, is that I think in sport, it's sort of deemed that you have to be tough, both physically and mentally. And so you don't really let people in on what's going on, you know, inside your head. And I think even for males too, it's not that common for them to sort of talk about their emotions. There's sort of a stigma around that. What's your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think in sport, if you're, you know, you have to be tough and mentally tough and not show that. If you show anything like that, you're considered weak. And especially, it's more so prevalent, I guess, in males, and not even just in male sports people, but the whole mental health side, just to do with the male population. Like, you know, guys are just told to just sort of suck it up, get over it, like, move on, like, don't be a baby. And guys won't express their emotions, and that's what things just bottle up and, you know, can turn into the worst kind of thing. So, and it is really sad to see, but I also feel like the last few years there's been some steps forward, and, you know, the idea of men being able to be more open and sports people being to be more open about their mental health issues and other issues they face, I feel like that's improving and becoming more of the norm and more accepted, which I think is key to being able to limit mental health, or at least improve upon it. Like, there's still a long ways to go, and everybody goes through it. But yeah, back to the first point, I definitely agree with you. There is that stigma around it, and considered weak if you know, show that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we definitely have taken some big steps in the right direction, but I still think that we've got a long way to go. And I know I saw an article online about how you, like, part of your skincare is sort of using concealer as well. I guess that's sort of another stigma around masculinity that you're sort of breaking down. Is there any, like, I'd love you to touch on that more, and then if there are any other sort of stigmas that you really want to break down further.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was funny. I had that brand reach out to me. They wanted me to, you know, try their products and do an Instagram post. I'm like, yeah, sure. I love getting free stuff. So, and yeah, you know, I used it. I thought it was great, and I thought it was a great idea. You know, guys these days are like, they care about how they look, and they want themselves to look good. And, you know, whether they admit it or not, like, most guys do care about how they look, and they take a lot of pride in it and a lot of care. So when they wanted me to do that article, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll answer a few questions about it. I don't mind. Like, I have nothing to hide. Like, for me, growing up when I was younger, like, you know, went through puberty, had pimples and whatnot, and bad acne. And I remember like going to school and stuff, and I'd be so self-conscious if I had like a few pimples on my face. And, you know, I went to an all-boys school, and I was worried like that I was looking ugly or get picked on for having pimples. Like, it's not as if I was there and I was worried about looking good for the girls or whatever and trying to pick them up. It's just my friends, like, you know, didn't want to get, you just feel self-conscious about that stuff. So I think the idea of guys just looking after themselves, like, there's nothing wrong in that. And for me, that brand, like, and that article, to me, it wasn't like putting makeup on or anything like that. It's more just a skincare type routine more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, like I agree. I think, you know, whether you're male, female, or, you know, anything else, looking good and taking pride in your appearance in whatever form that takes is the same for everybody. And I think everybody gets self-conscious at times at how they look. So, you know, hats off to you for talking about it, because I don't think there'd be many people out there that would do that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like, yeah, I just, there's so many people, everyone out there, like the most famous people, like, care about how they look, and they're not ripped down for it or anything like that. Like, so I think it's just breaking that stigma amongst the general population, I guess. And I feel like to a degree, you know, it has come a long way, but there's still obviously a ways to go as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to talk more about your training. What does that
Mhm.
look like on those hard days? How do you push through?
Yeah, so I've just recently, well, after Olympic trials, I moved down to the Gold Coast from Brisbane and have moved into Michael Bowles' squad at Griffith. And I thought the training that I was doing was like pretty tough. And then I moved there, and it's the hardest training that I've like ever done. Like, I've been rooted and had some weeks where I've just been so dead. Like, the training load. So I do 9 swim sessions a week, plus 2 spin sessions, 3 gym sessions, a Pilates session, and then, you know, other ways to look after my body, like stretching or activation or physio, etc., etc., etc. So it's a big toll. And on those days or those really hard sessions, like, you know, there's some mornings where you wake up and you're just like, I don't want to fucking go to training. Like, I can't be bothered. Like, but it's just, I have that drive in me to want to achieve my goals. And swimming, to me, I'm so passionate about it. And even like, you know, this year and this past year and a half, like year and a half, I feel as though my training and my effort in training hasn't necessarily reflected the results I've gotten, which has been tough. Like, you always want to swim fast and be able to swim personal best times. Like, I don't do all this training to dive in the pool and want to swim slow on race day. So it has been tough. Like, for example, I had my Queensland State Championships just last week, and my swims there were honestly awful. Like, didn't swim personal best times, and it just didn't make sense. Like, I'd done all the work, I'd done all the training, but the result just didn't happen. And was I upset? Was I pissed about it? Yeah. And previously, if I had a bad swim, I would dwell on that for days, weeks, and be upset about it, let it affect my mood. Like, I still remember 2018 National Short Course Championships. I had a terrible meet, and I just laid in bed depressed for like 2 days. And I was rooming with my like best mate Brandon at the time, and he just wanted to go out and do stuff instead of being in my hotel room. I was just mopey and depressed all day. But after talking to psychologists and whatnot, what I learned is like what's the point in that? Like, yeah, take your 10 minutes, your 15 minutes to be upset, get it out of your system, but just dragging it on is only going to make it worse for you. So, you know, going back to last week, I had my moment. I was upset. I was pissed off. Obviously, I wanted to swim well, but I can't change that result. It is what it is. I have to accept it. And then I just got to look forward. I take the positives of the race that I can, which honestly, in some of them was hard to find. And then I look at the things that I can improve upon, the things that I can change in my training, moving forward to better my result. And I think Bowley has a very good saying, or someone else had the saying, it's like, I'm either winning or I'm learning. So you're never losing. So even if you have a bad swim, you learn from it. And that's how you move forward. It's if you have a bad swim and you dwell on that and you let that get you down and you think, I'm not good enough, I'm shit, I'm never going to make it, that's when it becomes a bit of an issue.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really important thing that you touched on there, is that you're either winning or you're learning. And I think it's definitely a skill that I have not mastered yet. There's still sometimes I get at the pool and I'm like, this is shit. And I like have like a tantrum. My coach is like, go get it out and come back to me when you're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. Like it definitely gets to you. And I think it gets to us so much because we care and we want it so badly.
Oh, 100%. And as you said, it is very hard to master. Like, I by no means have mastered the you're either winning or you're learning. Like last week was really hard to try and stay positive. I think the thing that helped me stay most positive is I knew that my teammates around me still had swims to go. And I didn't want my mood and the way that I felt to let my teammates feel down or affect their swims. Like I wanted them to swim as good as possible. And by no means did I want to contribute to a potentially bad swim or take away from them. So I think that really helped me last week in being able to get over that. But yeah, it is very hard to do. And it comes with practice. But as you said, it just shows that you care and that you want it so badly, like which is a good thing. It's just making sure you don't let it depress you or take you down too far, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say then has been one of your biggest setbacks that you've had to overcome?
Injury wise, I've been pretty good. Like there's never been anything major that has set me back. Like, I've had the occasional shoulder niggle or back niggle, but the thing that I suppose was really hard to get through was obviously, as I mentioned earlier, like some of my mental health struggles and like the depression side of things. And, even still, like, I feel as though when my mum and dad split at the start of last year, that was something that I struggled with a bit and still do struggle with a bit because I'm quite family orientated and not like I've grown up for 20 plus years having known just, my mum, my dad, and my little brother. And that's all I've known. And for that just one night to just change, it's been almost 2 years, but it's still a really hard thing to, I guess, accept and adapt to. There's been so many ups and downs in regards to it along the way, with issues that my dad has had, issues that my mum's gone through. So that in itself is something that is still a day-to-day thing, just trying to improve upon and accept. But yeah, it hasn't necessarily set me back in my swimming in any way. There's honestly nothing too major that set me back, I guess, in my swimming. I've been pretty lucky when it comes to injuries and whatnot, thankfully. So
Yeah, for sure. What would you say then on the flip side of that is one of your biggest achievements?
I think one of my biggest, or most proudest, like in swimming, there was probably two. So back in 2019, making a World Championships trials final. I made like the B final in the 100 free, which I was pretty stoked with, and did a huge PB in the heat to like get that spot. I dropped like almost a second in 100 freestyle, which is quite a big chunk. And also in that year, I got my first ever like age national medal. So I only made my first age nationals when I was 17 in 2015 for the 50 free and a couple relays. And then 2016, I was 18, and that was meant to be my last year of age, and I went straight to open after that. And I never made a final or anything like that. Like, I was nowhere near it at 17, 18. And then in 2019, they extended the age group to 20 and 21. And so I had one last year of age, and I managed to snag a bronze medal in the 53, which I was pretty stoked with. Those two are definitely quite fond memories thus far. I do, just trying to think, but I suppose one of the, not necessarily just swimming related, but one of my most proudest things, I guess, is the fact that I'm still here and that I never went through with actually taking my own life. Like, the fact that I'm still here and breathing is an achievement in itself for me. Like, and the fact that I've sought that help and worked through those issues to be where I am today, I suppose I am pretty proud of that in that regard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely something you should be proud of. Like, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you right now. So, I'm pretty grateful that you're still here too. And I'm sure there's many other people in your life that are as well.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
What would you say in regards to expectations and pressure? Do you think a lot of it for you is internal, or do you think there's sort of external pressures as well?
I think there's a bit of both. I obviously have expectations of what I want to achieve and what level I need to be at. And, I do expect a lot of myself. And I feel like any great athlete or wanting to be athlete needs to have some pretty high expectations of yourself. Otherwise, it's very hard to get to the top and achieve the things you want to achieve if, you don't. And externally, there are some expectations, I guess. But, for example, I know a lot of people struggle with social media and whatnot like that, and some of the expectations of that externally. But for me, it doesn't really affect me. Like, I can sort of phase that out, and it's pretty easy for me to not give too much of a shit what people will think about me, which, that definitely wasn't the way back in the day. Like, I used to care a lot about what people thought about me and would get quite upset if, I upset someone. And, I still, everybody wants to be liked to a degree, but if there's something that I do and somebody doesn't like it, if it's something that's really about me and that I believe in and it's upsetting them, like, well, okay, well, that's your problem kind of thing. Like, that's not my problem. So yeah, I don't find external expectations or unnecessary external expectations. I'm able to sort of ignore them. So yeah.
Yeah. What do you think was the turning point for you then? As you said, it mattered to you quite a lot a few years ago, and now it's not so much. What do you think was the turning point for you that changed?
Funnily enough, I think it was like, gaining a bit of like some followers on Instagram and whatnot. So 2016 is when, for whatever reason, I started like getting a bit of somewhat of a following on Instagram. Like, nothing massive, but like, it sort of built up to like, 40,000 or whatever. And mainly it just ended up being a lot of gay guys that followed me because they liked seeing me with my abs out kind of thing. Like, that's what ended up being my fan base. But yeah, I think oddly enough, like, getting that following, just, some people would struggle with that, and having lots of people messaging them and saying different things, they feel like a weight on them and that they have to perform or do well, and they're worried about what these people are thinking. But for me, it had the opposite effect for whatever reason. It almost helped me ignore what people were saying. I almost got a lot, like, some of the messages I get, some people try and rip me or give me shit or whatever. And I just have a laugh about it, honestly. Like it's funny to me in a way. So as weird as it sounds, that's sort of what helped me be able to get through those external expectations, I guess.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because, as you said, like it could go two very different ways. So I guess it's fortunate for you that it's turned out the way that it has.
Yeah, definitely. I think my parents were always worried, like when I got some followers about, oh, like, maybe you should like ignore that. Or for me, when I'm like, some people, when they go to comps and stuff, like they'll turn off all social media, everything, and just ignore it because it's too much for them. But for me, I don't know, it doesn't affect me at all. If anything, it sort of relaxes me just going through that stuff. Like it's calms me in a way, I guess. It's weird.
Yeah. What would you say then? Like, obviously, swimming is a really big part of your life. It obviously takes up quite a lot of your time, understandably. How do you say that, I'm Lachlan Carter first rather than saying you're a swimmer? How do you disengage and disassociate that identity of just being a swimmer?
Yeah, so that was actually a very key thing when working with my sports psych, is making sure that I have things outside of swimming, and like being Lachlan Carter, not just Lachlan, not Lachlan, the swimmer. Because if your swimming's bad and you're not swimming fast, or you're not swimming well at training, and you're just feeling down about everything to do with the pool, then if I'm Lachlan the swimmer and I have nothing else, then Lachlan is just going to come down as well, and I have nothing to lift me back up. So finding different things outside, like it's great. Like you can have so much focus in on your chosen sport. Like that's really important. But you also need to have some type of out or another aspect to you. So for me, I've got a few. Last year I sort of did YouTube vlogs and whatnot, and I would do like a weekly vlog, and I would incorporate my swimming into that and my life as well. So that was something that I did. I don't really do that as much anymore. I had other things in my life that sort of became, I don't know, just took over a bit more. So, outside of swimming, like I live at Palm Beach on the coast with my partner Taylor. So we love just going down to the beach with our new puppy Weena. That's always a great out, just going in the ocean. And me and Taylor both love free diving and going snorkeling. Like just this morning, we were up the sunny coast and we took Taylor's jet ski out to Majimba Island and went for a snorkel out there for a few hours, swimming with turtles and fish. And it was like heaps of coral, and that was amazing. Saw some dolphins. Like that's a really great out. And that's actually sort of what like I want to do post swimming. So Taylor has just recently launched the website of her dive business, Diving in Paradise. So she's a fully qualified freedive instructor and does freediving courses. And our sort of goal is to build up a dive business where we can take people out to different dive sites and take them on snorkeling trips and just show them the wildlife down there, because it's just so beautiful. And honestly, it wasn't until I met Taylor that this sort of passion came. Like I've always loved the ocean, and when I was little I wanted to be like a marine biologist, but that sort of phased out, and I suppose meeting Taylor sort of just reignited that. So that's another big part about me outside of the pool. Aside from that, like I suppose there's work, but work sucks. So I just work at the casino as a roulette dealer, which is fine, but I've been hating it more and more lately. But that's just a part of life. I'm just trying to think of other parts of me that I can sort of talk about, but I suppose that's sort of the main stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think since, finding those passions outside of swimming that your swimming has been better because of it?
Well, yeah, I think like last year I was very, very focused on my swimming, but almost over the top, and it took away, like, all I was doing was swimming, and I didn't have that out. And I think it's very important. You need that life balance. But in saying that, I don't think I've ever had, like, where I'll fully cut, like, you obviously have to say no to different things and going out all the time, seeing your friends, but I've never sort of completely just isolated myself and cut that out. But I will do it at the right times. Like, I won't miss a session to go hang out with my friends, but if I can hang out with my friends and it be away from training times and not affect my training, then I will do that. That's actually, just talking about that, is another big, big key factor for me in being Lachlan away from swimming, is spending time with my friends. That's probably my most favorite thing to do outside of swimming. But it's also one of the things that has almost helped with my swimming, because even when I'm at the pool, like the squad that I'm in now and the squad that I was in before, I have some of my closest friends in both those training groups, and it makes going to training every day so much better. I really love who I train with and who I have trained with previously, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's super important to have that support network both in and out of the pool. So having that at training to support you, particularly in those hard sets when, you get to the wall and you're dying and you look over and you can see your friend is also dying, at least you can both be struggling together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, knowing that everybody in the pool is dying as much as you and that everyone's feeling that pain just makes it a little bit better. Like, it still sucks and it still hurts a lot, but at least everyone's in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. What would you say are your upcoming goals for the next, coming, like, sort of end of long course season and short course seasons around the corner?
Yeah, so obviously next year there's World Championships and Commonwealth Games, and I think there's a World Uni team in there as well. So ideally, I want to make one of those three teams. That would be huge. I don't mind which one. I'll take any. I just want to, see where I go in the school. Like, the big goal for me is to make an Australian team, and if that happens next year at World Champs or Com Games, then that'll be sweet. But I just got to make sure that I'm doing the things day to day in the pool. That's sort of the end goal for this season, is to be. Well, sorry, we have.
That's okay.
It's just Taylor.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Grab mine then. Sorry about that. Just
That's
need to
okay.
get the charger. But yeah, ideally, I just want to, come trials, which is in April. That's like the big next benchmark, to be able to swim a really good personal best time, make a final in 50 free and 100 free, and be able to execute my race, and whatever comes from that will be what it will be, I guess. And yeah, they're sort of the goals, I guess, for me. Yeah.
For sure. I like to do 3 questions to sort of finish up with, and you sort of answered this first one already, but I'm still going to ask it just in case there's anything else that you want to add. And it is, what is something that you're most proud of about yourself?
Yeah, so as I said before, swimming wise, I sort of answered that with, my 2019 trials final and like age group medal. And then outside of that, just the fact that I'm still here living, and that I never actually went through with, taking my own life. Like, the fact that I'm still here is, I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The second question I have for you is, what is your favorite quote and or the best piece of advice that you've been given?
So my favorite quote it goes back. It was first time I heard it was 2013. It was before like my school swimming team. We went to our big, it's called AIC, and we would verse the other schools. And the swim captains played like a hype up video. And one of the quotes in it was, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And I don't know what it was with that, but that just clicked with me, and I've just held on to it ever since. And just this actual video that they played, it was about an NFL player, and it was like a training montage. But that, I don't know what it is, but it just sort of motivated me and has stuck with me all these years for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. I think I've heard it before, but yeah, it's always interesting to hear it again. And yeah, it's a good one. And sometimes there's just a quote, it just sticks. So
Yeah.
whatever works.
Like, I'm not much of a quote person, but for whatever reason, that one has just stuck with me. Yeah.
Yeah. The last question I have for you is any tips or advice for those that are listening?
Yeah. So the big thing for me is just letting people know that if you are having any struggles and going through any issues mentally, like, don't be afraid to reach out for support. If you can, for me, my parents were huge. Like, I'm very open with my mum and dad and going to them for support. So if you can do that with your parents, do that. If you have some friends around you, like, opening up to them. But even if you don't want people to know the things that you're going through, reaching out to a psychologist or even like a helpline or something, just any way to sort of express what you're going through and just try and get a little bit of help, and just know that it's okay to not be okay. I think that's very important. And yeah, you don't want to bottle up any issues that you have, because the more you bottle it up, it just builds and builds and builds. And yeah, only bad things can sort of come from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a super important message. And I really hope that anyone that's listening can take that on board, because as you said, it only good things can come from, opening up and sharing about what's going on. I think my friend said that a problem shared is a problem halved. So super important.
Yeah, that's a very good one. I haven't actually heard that one before, but that's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and being so open and vulnerable and sharing your experiences. It's been awesome chatting.
That's all right. Thank you very much for having me.